Occasionally I make a video like this because so many people have the same type of questions. I get them over and over again, so it's important to just answer the questions. And these are important ones. If this is the first time seeing me, well, my wife passed away, unfortunately, from alcohol use disorder almost 5 years ago. And a lot of my page is telling about the stories of the last 6, 7 years of her life and our life together. And unfortunately, in this situation, I dropped her off in her seventh rehabilitation facility. This was a little bit different than any place we'd ever gone to. It was 100 miles away. I wanted to get as far away as possible. I wasn't planning on visiting her, and I was really at a place in my life where I was making plans to separate. A lot of people don't realize that. But I remember walking in this place, and they were very nice, and it was a huge house. There might have been 8 or 10 other patients there, and there was this huge stairwell in the middle of the house, and the steps were concrete. I remember going, that's a weird thing for a rehab facility. But the people were very nice, and I ended up leaving there, and I drove home. The following morning, like 10 o'clock in the morning, it was a Saturday afternoon when I dropped her off. Following morning, 10 o'clock, they called me up, one of the counselors, frantic that she had fallen down the stairs. And I can remember thinking at the time, just going, why are they bothering me with this? And they said they had taken her to UCLA Medical Center, which was like a mile away, where it was downtown LA. And I remember going, well, okay, so you took her to the facility. I just assumed she went to an emergency facility, and then she would go back to the rehab. Well, that's not what happened. And I know a lot of people think this is kind of callous, but you get to the point, and I tell this story because it's important to understand as a family member. I didn't visit her, and I didn't even know that she was still in the hospital. I didn't realize that she was in the intensive care unit until about 10 days later. I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning from a cardiologist telling me that in the middle of the night her heart had stopped, and that they needed to know I had to make a decision to resuscitate. And I was like, I can't even believe I answered my phone. Luckily my iPhone was next to on my bed next to my nightstand. I was half asleep. I remember going, yeah, okay, fine. I'm just like going, what are you talking about? Her heart stopped. I thought she was back at the rehab facility. So the next day I called up the rehab facility. Go, oh no, she's in the emergency. She's in ICU. I'm like, okay, this is the first time I'm understanding this. Okay, I did not know that. Why did no one tell me this? They said, well, we just assumed you'd go to UCLA to see her. I go, I told you guys, I'm done. My plan was to put her into the rehab facility, and then she was going to go to a sober living facility for a year. And at that point, I was really trying to find a path for her to really a bridge to get back to her own life, and this was going to be an opportunity for her. I was really making plans to separate. My limitations had been long since been surpassed. Unfortunately, after that phone call, it changed everything. So after we found out how serious the situation was, I called her family, I called my family. Luckily, my brother flew out immediately. Within a couple of days, he flew out that weekend. And then we drove in together into UCLA, and I had no idea how bad she had slipped. She was on every machine. They asked me to do a tracheotomy. I had to do the okay to do that so she could breathe. She was on kidney dialysis. It was a horror show. She had all kinds of machines. She was in unbelievable pain. And I remember at that time talking to the doctor. I'm going like, okay, what are we doing here? Okay, why is she in ICU? What's the story? And apparently her intestines had ruptured during the fall, causing infection in an already depleted set of organs. Like her liver had fatty liver, cirrhosis, kidneys, intestinal tract was kind of destroyed. Her pancreas, she had pancreatitis, I believe, but it was also infected. And it was affecting her heart. All this stress was affecting her heart. She also had Wernicke-Korsakoff. I later discovered, certainly the early stages of it, because she wasn't making a whole lot of sense mentally. It was just, her quality of life was gone. And I remember at the time going, why are we continuing with this? And she was having a series of operations because they kept going in and trying to really clean up the infection, and they thought they could at that time. So I agreed, to allow it to continue. And at that point, I realized, and my brother realized, that we didn't really feel like she'd had a whole lot of time then. And really, to bring this all together, what happened is 3 weeks later, they called me up and said that the infection really, they couldn't clean it up. She ended up going through, I think, a dozen different operations. They just kept going in and trying to clean it up. And all that stress had done a lot of damage to her heart. Her blood pressure had dropped to almost nothing. It was down to like 28 to 30 beats a minute. And I guess you pass away at 28 beats, 25 beats. And she had toxic shock because all of the infection in her body was just wreaking havoc. And ultimately, just her organs had broken down because of the years and years of alcohol abuse, and falling down the stairs just kind of finished her off. She had also fallen down the stairs at our house a number of times, and I've made videos on that. But that was really was what created the end. And it was, it was a very sad situation. I talk about this because this is not an extreme case. This is where every alcoholic is headed if they don't, unless they nip this in the bud, unless they get help, unless they work on themselves, unless they do all the things they need to do. This is the road that you're looking at, and this is what it's going to do to yourself and your family. And again, this story and so many more is in the memoir called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. It's the story of her, last 25 years in our life together, and ultimately her life and passing away. It's a big part of it. It's the road of an alcoholic. It's important for recovering alcoholics to stay in their lane, for active alcoholics to realize the effect that they have on themselves and their family, and it certainly will resonate with families of an alcoholic. It's a sad story, but it gives purpose to the story, and it's an important story to tell. We need to normalize the understanding of what happens to people who are caught in this trap of alcohol use disorder. And it's, I think it's a privilege to be able to talk about this, because so many people don't have a voice. So many families don't have a voice. That's ultimately what I want to do with this page, and I really hope that helps.